when they want to join us. Hello, folks,
Yeah,
and
dude.
posterity. This will be a part of a live stream backlog, and we are here with Black Lodge Games with Nick and Matt once again. And there's that question about Americana. I can't wait to get to later on because after seeing after seeing that brief preview,
dude.
you've mastered the art of teasers, which I love. It's like teasing. But yeah, in terms of we just started Cyberpunk a few weeks ago, and I know you guys love role playing, and obviously it's what the channel's about for the most part. But like, dude, I'm enjoying it so much. I've not played a game in so long.
Cyberpunk is so fun.
It's so
Are you doing
good.
Red or 2020?
Red.
Or 2013. Okay.
So we're doing a setting. It's Cyberpunk 2087. So it's 10 years after the video game finished. So
Nice.
our GM decided on a canon ending and a V, and they're now gone somewhere else. And it's essentially Night City, and we're treating it as the unofficial like sequel thing, because
Awesome.
CDPR said we're not doing Night City next time, we're doing like Chicago or somewhere. And I was like, all right, so if we're doing that, then we'll do this. And I'm playing Theo Teddy Eurodyne, who is Kerry Eurodyne's kid, who is actually
one of many
in
illegitimate progeny.
Yeah, he's actually in the lore. He's actually his sister's called Kim. So if I die, I'm going to play his sister who comes in for revenge on some point.
Nice.
So
Excellent.
And he's just this like punk asshole with daddy issues who just doesn't speak to his dad and just is in Night City as a "fuck you, dad, look at me."
Are you? So is he a corpo?
So he started off with Arasaka in Tokyo.
Get a real job to spite your rocker boy dad.
Yes. So he was
the true act of rebellion
in the Philippines in the law, and his mum was American, and obviously Kerry, which I didn't know, was Filipino. He's not actually American. So he's brought up in Arasaka in Tokyo after the divorce, and then shit hits the fan. He goes to Night City and becomes a solo, basically. So he's now a solo he's masquerading as a solo when he's really a rocker boy, and he's trying to hide it. But it like every week the mirror shades.
That's so awesome. Cyberpunk is so much fun.
It is.
Like it's such a good game, and that so we were playing briefly on our channel 2020, and we put in the two kind of systems we took from Red were the net running rules, because the old net running rules fucking suck from the original game. But also we did the extended life paths from Cyberpunk Red. But that Cyberpunk 2020, that book, like Mike Pondsmith just absolutely nailed the tone. It's so much, it's just fun to read. Like everything is dripping with like attitude and atmosphere. Like you just immediately, like you just know what the game is about. It's so fun. I really encourage people, if you're out there, to play Cyberpunk the RPG, because it's a classic and it's really, really good.
And you can still get 2020 rules. You don't have to get Red.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with Red.
It's still in print.
It's in print though.
Yeah. So don't be fooled. Some people are like, oh man, I really want to get 2020, but that's an old game, so I'm going to go to eBay to buy it. It's like, no, you can just buy it. They're still printing it. You do not get fooled and do not pay extra money.
Not that you would know, because unlike yourselves, one thing you guys really do well is advertisement and self-promotion and getting yourself out there. Artel Saurian do not give a shit. From like Cody and Mike's mouths, they're just like, we don't care. Like the game's there.
Oh man,
we're making our mortgage money off of it. We don't care. Like you buy it if you want. It's like, dude, no, you could be so much wealthier. You could be doing so well.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he's getting some nice checks from CDPR as well for
and
the
also
licensing.
From Netflix.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right, because of Edge Runners.
The Edge Runner. Which I still have
haven't
not seen. People
but
say that
I've heard it's very
good.
good.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're making a second one, so.
No spoilers in chat, because I've seen it. It is good. It is very, very good. It's like the only thing I've watched that I was sleepless afterwards. Like actually, I finished watching it and I was like, I'm not going to sleep. I'm just going to stay up.
Yeah.
This is screwed with my brain.
Okay.
And so they got Cyberpunk right. It was like I was afraid there'd be like happy endings and shit, and I was like, no.
It's a hard thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also a hard thing to do. And I've heard from many people who share my opinions. I hate anime for the most part. There's like three things that I
A
like
couple
from anime.
exceptions, but it's
Couple
not.
exceptions. Yeah, it's like Ghost in the Shell, Cowboy Bebop, and Akira, and it's some of the
the same.
Miyazaki stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the Miyazaki stuff. But I hate anime. But everyone else says they've been like, dude, just you need to watch it. It's really good.
I'm exactly the same, dude. Like my manga profile is Berserk, and that's it. Although Berserk
Yeah.
is literally one of the greatest things ever written by a human, but like the rest of manga, I don't know whether it's just the way I'm wired. I just don't get it. I'm just like I'm not here for this. Like, what is this? Like, even like something like Vagabond, which is literally for me by about Miyamoto Musashi. I'm just not getting it. I'm reading, going, well, all right, yeah, it's some panels with some drawings on them, dude. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Is Vagabond? Is that the Norse one?
No, that's Vinland Saga.
Vinland. That's what I'm thinking of. Okay,
Vinland's good.
Yeah.
It actually has an ancestor of mine in there. So I'm not going to say my second name, but I come from a line from Mac Thorkel. So and Thorkel's a character in Vinland Saga, and that's where our lineage comes from, that era.
That's awesome.
Down there. Yeah. He's semi-historical. I don't think he existed. I was heartbroken when I did some more research when I did my degree, and I was like, oh, this is all bullshit. Oh, well. And the name still sticks.
But myth is true in a very real sense. So even if it's not
more real than real.
Yeah, if it's not historical artifacts, who cares? You know.
Well, let's get into Mythras now that we've that's too good a segue.
Man.
So like, I have a friend of mine who is a huge. I'm going to meet him this afternoon. Actually, he is a huge Mythras fan, and he has not been able to find a group for love nor money because I've played Mythras once or twice. It can be quite an intimidating set of rules to actually get to grips with.
It's different than most other RPGs that you've played. So there's a little bit of a learning curve, but I will say once you get it, and that doesn't take too long, like it doesn't change. The combat system, you just learn this one combat system and then it's like that the whole game. You know, it's not like, oh, I've unlocked new powers and now I have to remember what this does and what that does. It's not like that. It's just the whole campaign, the combat system is going to be identical, but it gives you a lot of freedom. So it can be a little intimidating. I do get that, but it is so good. And it is my favorite fantasy game, like by far. And I like a lot of fantasy games. This is the thing. Like you can like more than one game.
I like, as somebody whose history was my job, or literally is my job, Mythras is the one game that respects history, and which is really strange for a game that isn't historical, really. But it respects the tapestry of people's stories and how these things come about and how epic stories are even fashioned and the oral tradition of how these things get passed along and stuff.
And it does that in a way where it doesn't talk about history. It's not giving you a lore dump or, being like, okay, well, this culture was like this. It's just like perfectly suffused in the material. It's really, really good.
Kind of like Cyberpunk.
Right. It tells you what matters in order to immerse yourself. Not even immerse yourself, to understand, to get pretty quickly what it means and what it would be like to be a character, be a person in a community in these different cultural milieus. The mechanics notwithstanding, and I think the mechanics are very good, but the brief description for the different types of magic system, you get it. It makes sense. You know where this came from in the real world. You know why it is here. And it paints a very good picture with very vivid colors, despite the fact that it's not keyed to any particular real world or fictional setting unless you're using, one of the mythic source books, or they have a Thenia, I believe, is their official fantasy setting, or if you're not using something else, you still get it.
Yeah.
What is the... So I know Mythras can be a very unforgiving game in terms of its combat, and for me, a game like that, it's by design. It means combat is not your first recourse, and it shouldn't be, because you're a character who doesn't want to fucking die. So, like, why would you get into combat first thing ever? as game designers, what would you say is the right amount of squishiness for a combat system? Would it be like really no mercy, unforgiving, these are the rules? Or are you supportive of game systems where maybe death mechanics offer a get out of jail free card for unlucky rolls, things like that?
I mean,
I'd say
think
it kind of
Go ahead.
depends. That's probably, I'm assuming that's what you're going to say. It depends on what the milieu is. There are, because it's like, say if you're playing something like superheroes games, and say you're playing in the milieu of like the show The Tick. No one ever dies in The Tick. You know, the bad guys don't die, the good guys don't die. And if you were going to play a game that was representative of that kind of a genre, then having some sort of get out of jail free card makes sense. If you're trying to play a game like Mythras, which is going to be much more of like authentically Bronze Age, you know, or authentically like something that feels very visceral and real, then I think death really needs to be on the table all the time. I will say about Mythras, though, it's like it's not necessarily that combat is not always your first recourse, but it's that combat is not always going to end in death. Like people can and will surrender. You may have to surrender.
There are Bronze Age and Dark Age assumptions to combat.
Yeah.
And fighting at that time, even though it's drawing on a lot of history and fiction where we have like honor culture stuff, people definitely were dying in fights and combats. That wasn't the overarching or the huge majority. You know, you're going to retreat, or you're going to surrender, or you're going to be captured and your clan is going to ransom you back.
Yeah.
This is made even more explicit in RuneQuest, but
yeah,
they're
like
both
your character
drawing on the
has
same thing.
Your character in RuneQuest has like a ransom value basically for when you get captured, or when you capture other people. And yeah, so it really kind of depends on the genre that you're playing. Mythras also does give you like luck points that you can use to re-roll or alter a roll and things like that, which I really go back and forth on because it is very deadly and you do almost need it. Yeah. But I don't like that kind of a thing. I kind of like respecting the dice as they fall.
Magic is also far more, I don't want to say ubiquitous, but it's more common. The world itself is more magical. It's not like you have, 10% of the population are Elminsters kind of a thing, but the base level floor of magic and the supernatural is implied to be much more. I guess you could scale it back, right? You could play Mythras without any magic, I suppose. Why would you do that? But with that does change things, right?
Yeah, let me throw out 80% of the book or whatever.
That's my biggest. Like, my biggest put-down book moment is that if I see a big paragraph saying, hey, if you don't like any of these rules, just chuck them out. No, dude, I paid you £80 for this fucking...
I know, yeah. It's like, why would I...
write the rules?
Yeah, I'll chuck it out if I don't like the rule or if I think the rule is bad. But yeah, I'm the same way. It's the other thing where, like, I do think that rules light games have their place, like, for sure. Like, we just started yesterday playing West End Games Star Wars, which
awesome.
Compared to something like Mythras is way lighter. And that's fun, and it's perfect for that. And we were kind of talking about this yesterday with regard to Star Wars. Our friend Spencer, who we're playing with, he was saying, because he's a little bit older than us, when West End Games Star Wars came out in the 80s, that was at a time when role-playing games, it was like maximum crunch was being put into everything, and everyone loved that. And people were kind of baffled by it, being like, there's really not much to this. And I was like, there's not much to Star Wars. It's not that it's not that demanding. You don't need it for that. But the combat rules in Mythras are so good, and it really it tells you armor is important as well, because if you have a lot of armor, you can survive there's costs, there's trade-offs with everything, but
Of course.
it's the type of thing where you have it's like life and death are on the line if you get in a fight, and it's really exciting, like really, really exciting. There was when we were playing Mythras earlier in the year, Nick was running it. We had a couple of fights. The last fight that we had, I think I took a major wound, which is not good. But it was like skin of our teeth. Like I was like, this might be the end of my character, and that is so memorable. And that's what you take away from role-playing games is the memories. Like that's what you want. That's the winning in the role-playing games. And so I have some amazing memories from that.
As we're saying, quite deadly in Mythras, or it can be deadly. But and you might think, well, this incentivizes you in a sense not to get into combat. And that's partially true. Combat really does have immediate stakes, and it takes longer to make a character in Mythras than in West End game Star Wars, for example. It's not very long, but it's not like making an OD&D character either.
It's West End game Star Wars is point by, but you only have 7 points. So it doesn't take long at all.
But what it actually, and I think this is something people don't realize or recognize consciously, because combat can be so deadly, it really makes the passions, which are a big part of the game, it's on your character sheet, really sort of shine. I understand as a player and also as a character in the world, combat is really deadly. So when my passion is telling me to get in there anyway and put it all on the line, it's so much more heightened. It really does. It kind of counterintuitively sort of synergize with that to make everything sort of reach that crescendo and keep you in the emotions of the character.
I think that's an amazing point. I think what Matt said before as well. Last weekend, I literally had a moment like that where Theo nearly died. Like he took a neurotoxin knife to the stomach. And we've got a super chat there from Board. So thank you for the rand, man. He was the medic who was trying to help me in that game. And then he got me killed. You rolled a natural 1, so screw him.
The perfect crime.
The perfect crime, yeah. No, he was an actual bro. He dragged me out of there. But like, now, see how I'm talking though? I'm talking in like I was there, like it was like some sort of war story. Yeah. So my character, I'm so invested in this character, and I know John, our DM, would have literally just let him die. Sorry, like that's just how it is. It's cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Like sometimes your end isn't glorious. You throw yourself at that glass ceiling and you just die.
Right.
So like, and it wouldn't have been a glorious last stand. We were in a vent. No one would have found me. So like, it's so
I'm in
true.
your walls.
Like, if I thought I could get away with it, if I thought John was gonna just like skate past it, because we're only on session 2, this is a YouTube series. It would have been so easy for him to just be like, no, I mean, I'm not going to kill you in the first couple of sessions. He was like, no, I'll kill the shit out of you. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, it's the game says you're dead. That's it.
Yeah.
But you could tell he wasn't trying to kill Theo. He was literally he was willing for Theo to make it through. He was like, I'm sorry, but like,
that's what happens.
He's being the neutral arbiter, of the rules. And I will say,
that,
Cyberpunk also does this really cool thing where you really care about your character, and after you go through the life path, and it's like it's so cool, and you're like, I know who this person is. You care about them a lot, but if you die, you get to do that again. And like having those life paths is kind of like a little game in itself. People used to say that about Traveller, like character creation is its own game. And so like that really softens the blow. If you die, it's like, okay, well, I get to do this other fun thing again,
I was kind of thinking of another character already when I was about to die, and then I lived. I was like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But I think what John did was also a good discipline for DMs, and we'll get into that in a second. Game masters, referees, whatever you want to call them. Don't call them storytellers. That's not what they're doing. But anyway, one really good discipline is his ability to make the jeopardy there and real. Like, it was absolutely, this is now happening to you, but also in making sure that your character feels like they have agency, but any moment of disciplined thought of like, this person's been paying attention to what I've been saying, he's coming up with solutions, instead of hammering those down saying you can't do this, that, or the other, he's putting them in a mental bank and saying, this guy really doesn't deserve to die, so I'm going to start saying, okay, this role, you're going to need to break that door down is a little bit easier because you've figured out a way to go around it. There are DMs that I've seen out there who perhaps adhere too far to the rules, where it's literally, I don't care what your agency as a player is or how many workarounds you get, the dice say no. I'd like your take, both your takes on that kind of an attitude. Have you ever seen that? You don't need to name names, but have you ever seen that in a game where it's gone a bit too far that way instead of the other way?
So I know what you mean. There's a sort of pathological autism that can develop on sort of the opposite side of the spectrum, where the rules absolutist mindset can trick itself into justifying its own unconsciousness. Everything has been proceduralized into the rules. I myself, as a GM, don't need to think, actually shouldn't think. And in fact, all of the players and the scene is actually an impediment to the elegance of the rules and to the flowchart, which is absolutely retarded and hellish. And so there's, I think a lot of times what this actually is just really well obfuscated power trips, but there are tremendously stupid people who just are unable to rotate the apple and have no imagination and aren't able to take into consideration, I don't even want to call them edge cases, because this isn't something that exists at the tails. Role-playing games exist only in the sort of the communal imagination. We're not building anything. There are no models. We're not filming anything. We're not writing anything down on paper. It really just exists in the mind. And trying to imagine a reality is definitionally more complex than any rule system, whether it's rules light or heavy, however long or however many editions the game has been out. There are aspects, attributes, actions, and complications which are not going to always be cleanly addressed by the rules, and it's not cutting corners or dice fudging per se to keep these things in consideration. This is what a judgment call sort of is, or this is, keeping the verisimilitude of the world and of the scene as sort of your first principle. That's the thing to which the rules and everything else are kind of in service to.
Yeah, that's what they're trying. They're trying to describe and support that. Yeah. I mean, I pretty much agree with what Nick said. There have been power tripping DMs and things like that. I think that. Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with what Nick said there. There's an aspect of needing to know when to apply certain rules. Like, if it's literally like, I'm trying to think of a case here with like related to doors or something like that. It's like, if you do have some sort of advantage, or if you're going to try to do something that might not be completely described by the rules, we don't simply treat it then as, well, there's no rule here, so we're going to use the most brute force, the closest thing in the rule.
Right.
I do think you have to be careful with that, though. There's kind of two there's two sides on this. You have the someone who is literally just power tripping, and then people who are willing to throw out the rules at the drop of a hat, which I think is also a danger. And a lot of people do that too, which I think makes the game much, much less interesting for the most part.
I think on one of your own videos, Matt, I think it was your turn to do a video that week, but whichever one it was, I think it was on acting. And it reminded me of what you were saying there about two different types of GM and trying to stick in the middle there. You were saying there were two different types of players, and in that scene with Marlon Brando in A Streetcar Named Desire, there was Marlon Brando embodying his character. He wasn't chewing the scenery, he wasn't doing anything crazy, he was just literally role-playing. And the actress opposite him was very much so playing to, as if she was a theatre actress playing to the audience, you know.
Right.
One of the performances would hold you in the moment, the other one didn't, you know.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of one of the strengths of that whole thing is that character, and people pointed this out in the comments, and I had to go through and agree with all of them. But that character is very theatrical, and she is sort of putting on this show because this is not what she's actually feeling internally, and so like it was a perfect marriage of getting the actors of those styles that perfectly married to these characters that were like that. It's utterly brilliant. I think that Vivian Lee was amazing in that role. But these are games for people with imagination, and there are going to be times where players do things outside of the described rules, and you need to make a call on that. I think oftentimes people, at least it's been fashionable in the last decade or so, probably throughout the entire hobby, but there is a tendency to be like, okay, well, let's just toss the rules of the game out, and that is a mistake. And that was something in that video that we got a lot of flack for, was basically saying like, no, you shouldn't throw out the rules. You shouldn't just be play acting, and that's the only thing, because the rules are what inform. Like,
I don't understand.
I know it's so stupid. It's like these things are both true at the same time, and there's a reason for that. The rules generally give you the neutrality of a real world, because we're not just trying to make a movie or make a story where we already know what's going to happen, and we're trying to tell that in the best way possible. It's that, no, we're pretending as if we were actually there, and the consequences of our actions, we don't know if they're going to succeed or fail, and the dice and the rules describe whether or not we do, and it's better to respect that, because that, for me, I am the immersive role player. I want to be in the world. I want to smell the surroundings and hear what's going on and imagine through the eyes of the character what is happening in front of me. Like, I want that completely immersive experience, and without the rules enforcing the reality of that breaks it for me. If I'm just getting out of jail free all the time.
So I guess when we're approaching a lack of compromise in the way that we're approaching these role-playing games, I guess on that note, we should probably discuss 40k for a bit, now that we're doing a lack of compromise. Mm-hmm. The title of this stream, and probably the video if we're going to put it up, is 40k as viewed from the outside. Okay? And I know both of you have some knowledge on 40k, but I think you're very much more in the role-playing sphere of things than in the tabletop wargaming sphere of things. You ain't missing much if you ask most role but I think you are, to be fair. I think wargaming is the quintessential male hobby, and it's god damn it, and it helps.
Well, I was watching a video of yours I think a couple months ago, maybe 5-6 months ago, where you were getting back into the old world.
Oh yeah.
Which 40k is the world of 40k is very interesting to me, but the world of Warhammer Fantasy is even more interesting. But I have a very Reddit understanding of 40k. I'm someone who has spent maybe 35 minutes on the 40K wiki, and I've seen that viral Bricky video where he goes through all the factions, and that's sort of the extent of my knowledge.
To be fair, that's
I'm
not
gonna
a
be back
bad
in-
foundation, and that's truly a detriment to 40k. That is actually not a bad foundation to start building your
Yeah.
knowledge upon.
I'm gonna refill my coffee. Please continue. I'll be
problem.
right back.
Excellent.
No, absolutely not a bad foundation to start building your knowledge upon. It is a very coarse object, 40k, and I get what you mean about fantasy being a lot more approachable, because like the old world is still has its own quirks. It has a Holy Roman Empire in there that's approaching the Renaissance. There is a lot of weird stuff going on, but brass tacks, it's a fantasy setting. You know, you can. There are lots of holes to grab onto there. 40k, there's an Inquisition in space. Like, what? Yeah, it's kind of. There's a lot more slippage there.
So I've been aware of 40k, for many decades. Never got into it, partly because I was never into or I didn't know anybody who was into painting miniatures or doing the hobby itself. But like the lore of the game, because there's been video games and what have you.
Sure.
I haven't played any of them. But I had a criticism years ago, which I think is not accurate. But I'm curious what your thoughts are with regard to the notion of grimdark as such, right? So my understanding, when I was in my 20s or a late teenager, it's okay. 40k. It's a sci-fi world. It's the Inquisition. It's a losing battle. There's the Emperor of Mankind. There's a bajillion different alien threats, and there's chaos. There's these demons. And the point seems to be that it is nothing is ever going to change, and it's basically chaos is going to win in the end, and the galaxy blows up or something.
Yeah.
And my criticism was, well, it's not even, well, this is nihilistic, which I don't think is the case. But okay, well, if nothing is ever going to happen, and if the conclusion is basically already implicitly understood, what is the point? I don't believe that anymore. I think that's too simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
But what is your thought on what's sort of the kernel of attraction to grimdark? Because I have a different thought now, but I want to hear what you think.
Well, I think there is a game out there, it's not out yet, that actually fits that description. It's called Trench Crusade. I'm not a big fan of Trench Crusade.
Yeah, the meme replacement. Yeah.
Yes, I'm not a big fan. And I've been dragged over the coals by my own chat for this many times, so get your pitchforks out. To me, Trench Crusade is written by modern people who think they know what Stoicism is, and it's just nihilistic bullshit. It's literally just so pessimistic. There's no point to anything. Everyone's bad, especially the Christians. Everyone's bad. It's like, like
uniquely bad are the Christians.
Uniquely bad, yes, exactly.
Internally, yeah.
And there was a YouTuber, Trill, was speaking about this a while ago, and there is something awesome about a setting where there is good and evil. Go screw yourself. Yeah. Like there is good and evil in this world, and there are good people and bad people, and you should celebrate the good ones. And I think with Grimdark, I really did put across my point really badly now I think about it. But with Grimdark, you can't have light without shadow and vice versa. You have to have good people in Grimdark striving against the grim and go, no, I'm going to change this. They never succeed, ever, but they always try. That celebrates the tenacity of the human spirit. Like, that's what it's all about. That's what Grimdark is. And 40k does do that. 40k has countless characters there who really do try. You know, and not all of them are superhumans based in power armor. Some of them are just normal dudes, like farmers on an agri world who just wants to protect his family, and he sees a 8 foot tall power armored Iron Warrior Chaos Space Marine, and he just runs at him with a pitchfork. No, screw you! You're messing with my fam. I'm gonna take you down. He dies. But the balls in this guy.
Yeah.
Like one of the main dudes in this
The
setting was a
NIMBY
guy
Chad
called...
at the end of time.
Yeah, there's a guy called Alanius Pierce, right? He was an Imperial Guardsman who stands in front of the Emperor when Horus is about to kill him. Horus is a god. He's like 12 foot tall.
Yeah.
And he skins him alive with his mind. It's like, dude, dies horribly.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you're not touching him. Sorry. Like the balls, Titan balls, and it's like none of those people would exist in Trench Crusade because everything's screwed. And I think, Nick, that is a really good... As soon as you were describing that, I had Trench Crusade in my head. I was like, that's what that is.
Yeah.
If anyone can give me something to prove that I'm wrong, I will happily read it. Of everything that I've read of Trench Crusade, I was very interested in it, but that interest waned very quickly. As somebody who's studied the ancient Stoics and things like that, there is a lot of the ancient Stoicism in 40k. Trench Crusade is full of modern-day Stoicism. It's people who think... You know, it's not worth being annoyed or upset or emotional about anything. It's like, shut up.
Yeah, you're being tortured. Have you tried not caring?
Yeah, yeah. Again, have you
Silly.
tried killing your own consciousness?
Yeah.
I mean, 40k
So this
does
is
that
what-
too, but...
This is. I was asking myself, because I knew we were going to talk about 40k and some other stuff. I was thinking to myself, what? I don't really know anything about 40k. 40k is cool. The aesthetic, of course, is cool. There's decades of lore that has its attraction, but you know, what is it that is interesting? I don't know about any of these characters. I know who Horus is and like the Emperor, but and I think it seems to me the main not attraction. What am I trying to say? The main one of the core aspects of like grimdark that makes it interesting. And I'm talking about the Imperium here. I don't know how the Tau or the Eldar or whatever fit into grimdark. I just don't know. I just don't know enough about them. Also, who fucking cares? Why would you not want
I know.
want to play the
fucking Space
Imperium?
Marines? I know.
Yeah,
It's so
I would
ridiculous.
play a fucking I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
It's a world that is suffused with. This may not even be the right term, but it's a world that's suffused in. It's like conviction punk. It's like you know, like it's like belief punk in a way. Like the stakes are so high. The danger and the devastation arrayed against you is so ludicrously exaggerated. It would almost be comical. It's like tragic and then seems to come back around again, but there's an operaticness where it's like, no, like you were saying, I'm standing in front of a literal god, a literal chaos god or whatever in front of my emperor, and that is cool as fuck. I do like that. That I can get with. That's like, yes, that makes sense to me. So I don't know if that is accurate at all from your.
I was to say my view from the outside on this is that's exactly the spirit of 40k. People say, "Oh, it's satire and all this stuff." It's not satire.
Fuck up!
Yeah,
I don't care if it is. This is like the
up.
media literacy thing.
Yeah, take your media literacy card and I can't say what I want to say. It's YouTube, but
I love me
you
Emperor.
can't now. We're 10 minutes
the entire thing is that the way in which grimdark is not just nihilistic awfulness is when you've set up such an absurdly ridiculous conflict. And like you said, the people believe so hard that they're willing to sacrifice their life, get flayed by someone's mind powers and things like that. That is comical and funny. And it is like the heroism in that, in the face of just odds that you can't defeat, is so admirable and so fun. That like I think that's where like the joy comes comes from.
It's a joyful setting, yeah. People don't realize. Like there is one thing I wanted to point out to both of you is that what you just said there, Matt, is actually part of the law. It's true. So if you works, like if you believe something enough, it becomes true. So Now I mean on a racial level. So the true irony is the emperor always said, "I'm not a god." But now he's on the golden throne, and he's people pray to him all the time. He's actually a god because he's empowered by everyone's prayers. The orcs think if you paint something red, it goes faster, and because they're so single-minded and dumb, it actually works. Like it actually does go faster. And shit like that.
And the orcs are very joyful. Like the orcs are just having fun. Yeah, they're great. Yes. Like they have the most optimistic vision of everything, in my opinion.
It's like this is good guys.
They're like, this is
we're
great.
Bringing war. This is awesome. Hey guys.
Yeah.
Like, we'll crush your face now. Like I love, and this is why I was so pissed off when Games Workshop killed him off screen. How dare you? Was Commissar Yarrick. He is an Imperial Guard commander, commissar, who is so badass fighting the orcs that they're terrified of him and they start telling stories about him. And because of how their belief works, he literally starts becoming like Super Saiyan powered. Some dude. He rips like the arm off an orc and attaches it to himself and is like, and he goes in there and call him Old Red Eye, like his laser eye can just kill you at a glance, and it starts working. That sort of
nice.
That's it's peak 40k. And one thing awesome. I will say is like Games Workshop are getting away from that. Unfortunately, they're going more down the milsim route, which is it's pretty shitty. No matter how cool the new Space Marines look, it is pretty shitty that they're going down this route. But that is 40k though. What you're both describing is the essence of what 40k is supposed to be. Is that you believe something? Enough,
and and my and again, I don't know much about Trench Crusade. I know that when the 40k people tried to become fans of Trench Crusade, they were told no by the developers, which is a very stupid idea to fire potential customers like that. Fine. Yeah, exactly. It's your choice, your company, whatever. But the bare minimum of what I know, it does not feel like that sense of joy is present in that game. It does look like if we just took it very, very seriously and accepted that this is a horrible slog. I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound fun or entertaining or like anything that like what would be the point?
It's soulless.
I don't care how good the aesthetics are, if it's completely soulless.
It's a game that was built around somebody's artwork rather than the other way around. Like 40k was built by Rick Priestley, Andy Chambers, those guys. They had a vision of and originally it was satire originally. But Rick Priestley, if you listen to any of the guys who wrote Third Edition, which is where the sea change happened, they all say legitimately, we made a decision to move away from satire. After First Edition Rogue Trader, we said, hey, all right, Thatcher government, fine, all very funny. We got Obi-Wan Kenobi in here somewhere as a, as an Inquisitor. Let's move away from that. Let's make it more grounded. Let's make it more grimdark, and let's make it. Well, grimdark wasn't even a thing back then. They coined it, right? It was in the grim darkness of the far future. There's only war. So they said, let's make it more grounded, but let's be more clever about this. Let's instill belief systems. Let's instill. Games Workshop are very, very good at writing writing extremely elegant lore pieces that fit together. So much so that somebody who writes a lot like me, it's like someone's giving you a massage in your brain. It's brilliant. One good point that I wanted to bring up wasn't 40k related. It was something that Nick reminded me of before with the Old World. It's the ogres. So the ogres are one of the greatest written factions in anything ever. Any role-playing game, any war game, because every single facet of them makes sense. From their magic system, which is gut magic, So it's literally they go "Ugh," and go and they fart and then something happens. They eat all the time. They believe their soul is in their gut. They wear gut armor and no other armor. They just wear a big plate there. They worship this sarlacc thing that fell from the heavens. So it's just an open maw pit in the middle of nowhere. They just worship it and throw shit into it, and like that's what happens there. They're mercenaries. They're like, and they actually will fight for you. They're actually quite cool. As long as you don't stop paying them, then they'll just eat you. No, but they have brains. They kind of look like Mongolians, which is kind of problematic, but it's also really funny. Like it's like they're just the big dude with mustaches and stuff, and I just love them. And GW used to be able to write shit like that all the time, and you'd read it and go, "This is genius!" Like,
this is something we talk about a lot, because what you said, it was originally satire, and then they took on this sincerity. Yes. And when they took on the sincerity, this is where this amazing thing is birthed, basically, and it gets much better. This is why I don't like things that are. It's like, oh, this is a satire. It's like, okay, so you're telling me that you are being
taking
false.
It seriously, and it's not interesting.
Yeah, you're being false about this, and it's like people are desperate for sincerity, and that, and obviously you can see that shines through, and why this became so, why everyone loves it, is because of that sincerity. And the more you get away from that, or shy away from it, or try to take it in a direction that is, in some sense, dishonest. That's going to kill anything that was magic about it.
And just on that point, because I know a lot of people will say, well, didn't you guys say that Trench Crusade was too sincere? No. I think what they were saying was, it's soulless, it's heartless, there's nothing there. To be sincere about it. That's the whole problem.
Right, that's the thing. Is the reason that grimdark is fun is because of these other things. It's because of the absurdity, and taking the absurdity seriously, and the heroism and face of the darkness. But if you only believe that it's all darkness, that and the characters just believe it's only darkness, and if I can tell when you're writing it that your values are everything is darkness, it's going to be terrible. And again, I haven't read Trench Crusade. I don't know anything about it beyond like 3 tweets that I've read.
But additionally, like corollary to that, there's a common pitfall. Like what did I just say a little bit, like conviction punk? I don't know what the prefix is here, but there's an aspect of like 40K and Trench Crusade. It's so bombastic. It would perhaps be accurate to call it some kind of a punk, or at least you know what I mean. Feudal
punk.
This is the literal history. If it's being sort of inspired by a kind of art or the work of some artist. I don't know anything about Trench Crusade, but the sense I've always gotten about it is, it's all aesthetic. It's all style, no substance, which is a common problem that can fall into the sort of punk kind of games. We're talking about steampunk or diesel punk or cyberpunk. If it's just about the vibe, that's not enough. The vibe is very, very important. You need a vibe for 40K and for Night City and for all of these things, but it's not just that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's essentially a tech demo. Like that's what you're doing. It's not. It has no substance there. There's nothing. Yeah. When I come into your world, I want to turn over a rock in the woods, and I want to see grubs. I want to see worms and soil and shit. I don't want to see a Marxist manifesto. I don't want to see whatever else you have going on underneath.
I know.
Whatever you got going on.
I just don't make propaganda. That's all. No. Like politics and philosophy are going to come through in anything anyone writes. I understand that. More philosophy than politics. But it's when you have written explicitly something that is propaganda and is preaching a message to me. I don't care what the message is. I just don't want it. It's so annoying.
and that'll be countered by Smooth Brain saying, well, everything's political. No, that's not what we're saying.
Shut the fuck up.
You can have politics and whatever in your setting. And in fact, you should. In a fantasy setting with you want to explore themes and government types and how they're working, cool.
Yeah.
As long as you're doing it from a top-down perspective of this is how the world works and isn't this interesting. The minute you start parroting opinions,
when people say that everything is political, they are not only are they wrong about this, but this is just they are telling you that I believe you and I are in conflict, and I intend basically to force you into the position where my politics are. It's
a bad
fake.
faith.
Yeah,
we have to engage in this sort of binary. That's on my terms. Everything is political. Why aren't you fighting me? On my terms, with gay semantics.
With my retarded rules, and it's completely false. Not everything has to be political, and people who tell you that this is
you can just
this is the ring of the leper. The approach well. It's the ring of the leper bell. You know who you're dealing with when they say everything is political. You don't need to know much else about them. They've told you everything by saying that.
It's the shame bell, yeah. It's the shame bell. Whenever I see it in comments, I just brain switch off. Okay, I don't need to engage with you. Something you mentioned before about 40k, I think Matt and Nick, you both mentioned it, was about Space Marines. Now, I don't know if you know this, but there is quite a large contingent of the 40k fandom who are fucking sick to the back teeth of Space Marines and who absolutely despise them. I would actually say, weirdly, most of the normies like myself really like Space Marines. Everybody else tends to really not like them anymore. They're the poster boys. They're pushed all the time.
Yeah.
But I think your reactions was very telling there, because you both went, that's cool as shit.
It is.
Yeah.
It's cool. I understand something can be overdone, and I have no doubt that has been the case just because a modern company is handling a creative
a decades-old
creative project.
Yeah.
But the idea of Space Marines are cool, and it's like both of these things can be true. Also, the Imperial Guard is fucking cool, and the Sisters of Battle are really cool to me. Like, I know it has to be normie shit, but I said I watched that Bricky video and he was getting into it. Like, I want to launch cathedrals into battle,
into space,
and I want to
and
crush...
want their lasers.
Yeah. I want to fire holy water and blast cathedral music across a battlefield as we scorch an entire planet and cleanse it of... And it's bombastic and over the top. I don't give a fuck. I want a pipe organ rocket launcher like that.
Yeah.
This is cool, and it's only dumb and retarded insofar as you're doing the smirking millennial thing, which is insufferable. It's like doing the aloof irony. You can't. The 40k seems to me, over the past 9 or 10 months, I've been getting into professional wrestling, and professional wrestling.
Yes, bro.
It's a simple as kind of a thing, and if you're being ironic about it, you need to be shoved into a locker.
Yes.
Anti-fun.
Yeah. You're anti-fun. I understand it's not real. I understand all these retarded things that you're saying. Don't care. It actually is cool. It's immune to irony in that regard.
It's tough.
It's so over the top.
Yeah. I think one story I wanted to regale you with, both you guys, before we move on. I know Matt's got something to say, but before I forget, there was one awesome 40k story that I read a while ago. It was about the Tau, and the Tau are quite reasonable when it comes to the 40k universe. People call them space commies. Again, this is a reductive thing. It's what people do with 40k. They make it the dumbest version of what it is. They're not, right? They're a collectivist society, yes, but that's not what they are. And they're reasonably reasonable. They will go into worlds and they will conquer you by just showing you a better way. They'll go to Imperial World and say, why are you working in the dirt? You've got technology that can do that. Why didn't you get educated and you can come be a geologist with us? You know, it's fine. And everyone goes along with it because why wouldn't you, right? Because, you know, and it was a really interesting way of Games Workshop to say, well, what if people were conquering by being nice in 40k? Well, they soon come across the Imperium and try and make friends with them. And it goes poorly, as you can probably guess, because the Black Templars turn up and everything goes really bad. They start hearing...
Can we be friends? No.
No. Your response is coming at muzzle velocity, motherfucker. So they are hearing reports about the Titans, you know, these massive god machines, you know, and they're thinking... And the Ethereals are all standing there on this world that is, you know, fighting the Imperium, and there's churches on the horizon, all sorts going on. And they're saying, look, listen, I want this propaganda to stop immediately. It's for my ethereals. Nobody's stupid enough or petty enough or, you know, just retarded enough to make something this stupid. It'd be such a waste of resources, you know? And then one Ethereal says...
That's where you're wrong.
One Ethereal says, Talvar, why is that church getting closer? It's just like, going over. And it's just like... That's 40k, you know, that's the shit right there. And just that's, you know, when these two cultures just bang and they're there together. But even the tower dickheads these days, but there we go. Sorry, Matt, I cut you off before you were about to say something.
Oh no, I think I was just gonna say this is also every like 2 weeks, you know, for years now, the discourse about Starship Troopers comes up.
Oh yeah.
And you know, it's like, well, you know, actually the humans invaded the bug space first and we were the aggressors and blah, 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 blah. And this is a satire and you're supposed to think this. And it's like someone made literally just the perfect tweet where they tweeted out the picture of the brain bug. And it's like, I don't care how smart the satire is, whatever it is. If you are asking me to identify and empathize with this thing, I just can't. Like this giant, disgusting bug with all these different eyes and like a vagina mouth, and it eats brains and stuff. It's like, I cannot empathize with that. I can empathize with the attractive people with machine guns that are killing that thing. You know, and it's with me for the aliens and everything in 40k. I know they're cool. I like Tyranids and and orcs and all that stuff. But the reason I like them is because I want to blow them up. And this is a perfectly this I think is the correct position. So if you don't like Space Marines, ask yourself why it is you find yourself identifying with these fucked up weird bugs and green-skinned monsters and bizarre robots and space elves and things like that. There's something wrong with you. Yeah, you are the problem. There is something wrong with you, and
sure
you need
you're not into
to
40K,
fix yourself.
Like, this is a very pro.
I mean, I think I love the aesthetics of it. I don't know tons about the lore. I've played the most recent Space Marine 2. I got kind of bored with it. I know it's better if it's co-op, but and I wanted to get into Warhammer and 40K when I was like 12 years old because I started seeing it in magazines. I saw it at the game shop and everything like that, and then I saw the price tag. Yeah, and I was like, that's not happening. So my experience with war games is limited to the war game that my friend and I made because we were too broke to play 40K, which was we took our Axis and Allies figurines and we're doing like World War II battles in like Lego terrain towns that we had done. We made our own rules for it and everything like that, which was a lot of fun. That's my extent of wargaming. So there is this itch that I have, and Nick and I have discussed this many times. This is one of the reasons that I'm so I actually have the books right here. So attracted to Adventurer Conqueror King system, the role-playing game, is because in the end game of this, the later stages of the game, it shifts from being a pure fantasy role-playing game like you would play in D&D into a full-on war game. Like you're moving armies. You can even if you get really autistic with it, there's a rule set that there's like an abstract mass combat system for this, but there's a rule set where your individual characters can be parts of legions, and you're moving troop formations around. It's a full tactical miniatures game that accounts for everything in the rules. It's insane. But that is deeply attractive to me. And I have always been interested in 40K. And I did play Dark Heresy a couple of times many years ago, which I had a lot of fun playing. I almost died, of course, but
I had infinite time and money. I would be interested in exploring wargaming. Although I think I would probably prefer Warhammer Fantasy or the Old World or whatever the hell they're calling it.
Rank and flank.
Now,
fantasy.
Actually, because of something I was watching that video of yours, I don't recall, but you made an observation that was very interesting, which didn't occur to me, but makes sense, where the Old World, the way that the troops seem to be arranged on the table, I guess it's more because of what it is. It's more regimented and reminiscent of like actual ancient war formations rather than Space Marines. Which Space Marines have a lot more mobility and capabilities than.
And when you have explosives and ranged weapons and
drop
area
ships
effects,
but that is very interesting to me. We'll see if it ever happens. We were saying before we started recording that you just finished Exile Verse or Exile Con. Oh, you also finished the Exile Verse, at least the Space Marines, but Exile Con. And if it ever comes our way, I'd stop by.
Yeah, for sure.
We need to get this on the go. I mean, try looking up Hail Caesar. That is what you just described. Imagine you could have that and your cake too. You can have your cake and eat it, right? It is ancient historical warfare in the guise of rank and flank. Yeah, it looks exactly as it's supposed to, and it's a lot cheaper. The models aren't as good, but it's a lot cheaper. Go support Rick Priestley too, Warlord Games. It's awesome.
Nice.
So
I have thought of, if I get into wargaming, someone I think it was the Joy of Wargaming here on YouTube gave some advice on Twitter, which was basically like, if you've never played war games and you want to get into them, don't just buy a bunch of minis for some game you think is going to be cool. Buy just those little wood blocks that you can get at like a hobby store. And once you find a game that you really like, a rule set that you really like, then you can start building out armies for that. But don't blow a bunch of money on miniatures and things like that, when really what you need are interchangeable units that you can use for a bunch of different games to try out what you want.
I say the same with Games Workshop. Like if you number one, don't buy from Games Workshop. Don't be a retard. Like that's you're throwing money away. Source your Space Marine. Get the standard 10-man intercessor squad, the standard one, and paint each and every single one a different color. That means if you leave the hobby now, you've done something with your time, you tried it out, you've got your army painted up, you tried to learn different skills, and you can say, I've tried Warhammer, I've got some different skills. As soon as you get that one paint job, like say Nick was talking about Blood Angels before, let's say you were painting like Flesh Tearers or something, or say you're painting Blood Angels, and you're thinking, oh, I like this Blood Angel guy. They're not brutal enough. Let's have a look in the lore. Oh, Flesh Tearers, cool. They're literally called Flesh Tearers. They're just mental, and their whole sign is a razor blade, and they just eat people. Cool, I'm collecting that, right? And away you go. And that's what you do. You don't decide on your army, then buy 3 or 4 sets. That is a fast track to buyer's remorse, and you're never going to get anywhere. You know, but wargaming is a phenomenal hobby if you have the time. I apart from Exile Fest, I don't have the time to do wargaming really, and unfortunately. I know you guys game designing, you do not have the time to do wargaming. But if you can find an
that's excuse, the other thing,
that's the thing, you know. If you can find an
Exile
excuse,
Con comes to Texas, that would be our excuse.
Dude, there's a lot in Texas, and there's a lot of people. I'm gonna have a look at my chat right now. I'm just gonna go see if there's any. There's one or two in there. I think there is one or two who are watching.
Yeah, it's
swinging their pants right now.
It's pretty crazy on the topic of like the cost of minis and things like that. Our friend Spencer has been playing. He's played every game. He's got minis for everything, but he was talking to us and saying, like the prices are so ridiculous on things like Games Workshop. Like it's literally insane what they're trying to charge. And then if you try and get into like BattleTech, you can get a full lance of mechs for like $25 or $30.
They also look like a pile of shit as well, though. Like the models aren't.
I understand they're not. But the other thing is, a lot of these models seem to be getting overly detailed, and this is like you'll see when people are doing like resin prints and things like that. Like they're getting way too detailed, and it's like, do you want the? I understand mini painting is it's kind of its own hobby, but it's like, don't you want to use these things? Like, don't you want to get them to the table, or do you want to sit there and spend like weeks painting one fucking thing and getting the exact tiny detail? I don't understand people.
I'd say, in terms of doing 40k, if I think the vast majority of people just paint the models and they enjoy the lore, and they use the painting of models as a grounding technique. So if they have a bad day or something, they can. When you're painting a model, the reason why I took up martial arts and pro wrestling and training and things like that is because when I'm doing that, I can't focus on anything else. Right? Like I'm literally about to get my fucking head knocked off. So every other problem goes away. It's the same thing with miniature painting. I know it sounds weird, but it's the same headspace you get into.
No, that makes sense.
I've done both. You can't focus on anything else, and you're there. And by the time you're finished, dude, you feel purged. You're like, you've got energy. You're ready to go. I can go back to grading essays. I can go back to doing lesson plans. So that is the reason why a lot of people get into it and they stay into it. Also, if you're going into gaming, you've got to be doing it with the right people. And I've said this time and time again. Your hobby time is precious. No gaming is better than bad gaming. That goes for role-playing.
Big true.
That goes for wargaming. And finding, especially with wargaming, especially the way 40k is, it's an awful game. I'm sorry, it is. Like, it's just, say me and Nick are playing a game. I'd be moving everything. Nick, you'd be standing there for an hour whilst I do all my things. You remove some of your models, and then you do the same to me for an hour. I've got better things to do, man. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I've just got... and it's not about attention span. People say, well, this was happening for years. You had no alternative. This was the early 90s, right?
Yeah.
It just you're in the early 90s and you're mainly in the UK.
Yeah.
It was rainy. You had nothing else going on.
Yeah.
So there are many pitfalls to getting into this hobby, and I think you both have not just stumbled across, but like made really good points on some of them.
And I will say your point about the process of painting versus using it, I do understand that, and that makes a lot of sense. On the topic of like BattleTech minis looking like shit, the cost to produce these things, though, it's not different from 40k stuff to BattleTech stuff. It's agree. Like pennies. So the justification in the price differential is crazy to me. And I understand how supply and demand works. I get how this works. People are willing to pay more. So that's how I understand how the price formation works. I get that. But I think it's insane to pay the prices that Games Workshop.
I will not be paying.
I will not ever pay for that. And if I were ever to do this, I would literally just download shit and 3D print it. I would get a 3D printer. That's what I'd spend the money on.
You are within your right to do that, and I have gotten into hot water for this in the past. Have you guys seen the Australian prices for 40k right now?
No,
I've not.
Okay, a month's rent, basically for one of the medium to big sets, a month's rent. I'm not exaggerating. Like it's that bad.
It's
if Games Workshop, if Games Workshop, I don't care what the tariffs are. By the way, it's not that much. I've got friends in Australia who tell me that much. Like, dude, I work for the government. It's not that much. They are ripping us off. If Games Workshop are selling you products at that price, they are not providing you a service anymore. 3D print their shit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's not how the market works. You can't. If you're in Russia or Ukraine, Games Workshop have said to both countries, we're not selling models in your countries anymore. Not because they can't, just because of the political situation. Fuck them. 3D print them then.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Why? I don't. get that.
I understand intellectual property law. I am not a fan of intellectual property anyway, but
Yeah.
at the same time, they're shapes. You can't control what I'm doing with my thing that can print shapes. I'm sorry.
A guy with a sword, a guy with a gun.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
If more people 3D printed shit and played the game, it actually would probably equate to way more sales for Games Workshop than
yeah.
they've seen in years. I don't know how well or poorly they're doing financially, but
Very well
um
at the moment.
um
Trending downwards,
you would
but still doing well.
Mhm.
you would have so much more. I have no idea whether this is true or not, but it's always the sense I've always gotten about Games Workshop and Warhammer more broadly is there's a smaller but narrow and dwindling core of like diehard people who will pay any price.
Mhm.
Wales.
Because for as long as I've heard about Games Workshop,
Mhm.
I've heard the same thing that you hear all the time, that they're the worst company and they hate their customers. I used to watch a channel called Rob Fremantle. He did RPG stuff and Warhammer stuff, and he was saying the same thing like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But
Well, I remember like when I wanted to get into this in the early, like around 1999 or something like that. I remember the starter box set for Warhammer or 40K. They were all like $90 or $100 or something like that.
yeah,
Which is would be way more expensive now.
It's way more.
there
Um,
used to be a
That's-
Games
yeah.
Workshop
Yeah.
by me where I grew up in New Jersey. And myself and Dane, who Matt has met, a friend of mine from childhood, we went over there on a lark. So we were playing role-playing games. So maybe we can buy a miniature. So we were doing Pathfinder at the time, and we saw the prices.
Yeah.
Even back in, I don't know when this was, 2012, 2013, something like that, early 2010s. And I'm not going to spend that. That's absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
For like 5 guys.
It becomes
whatever it was.
irresponsible. It becomes irresponsible. Like it's just they're charging what they can get away with, and as Matt said before, we get supply and demand. We get like you'll pay what you want to pay, but they are reaching a critical mass now where people are just telling them to piss off. It's getting to that stage now where I'm surprised it got this far. Like when I was working for them, it was like I asked once. So we go through this training, shoplifting training, all that kind of stuff. And working with the company, you're like, okay, well these models are really valuable. It is what it is. So I said to my trainer once, I said, like if a guy runs out the store with like the new, I think it's the Horus Heresy box set, the new Horus Heresy box set. Do I chase them? And he looked at me like I just slapped him in the face. He was like, don't you ever do that. I was like, what? Don't chase any... No. Do you know how much these models are worth? I was like, no. He said, which one do you think is more expensive to make, the box or the models? I said, well, the models. He goes, no, the box.
No. Yeah.
And we're fully insured. Like, we're charging, like, we get like a 400% profit on every single thing that we sell in this store, on average.
Yeah. Which is insane.
Yeah.
So
it's raw molded plastic. That's all that it is.
And but it is a stumbling block. And people will be saying to me, like when I was mentioning to people on the Patreon and the Discord that we're going to have you guys on again, we're going to talk some 40K. A lot of them were saying, avoid the business stuff, avoid the prices. Talk about law and maybe dark heresy, things like that, which you will, we have, but you can't sidestep this. If you're looking at this from like an outsider looking in, the first thing you see is those prices, and you go,
"It's the price tag." What? Yeah, that was, and it's been like this. It's always been like this. Like I said, I desperately wanted to get into to 40K and Warhammer Fantasy when I was like 11 or 12, and it's like this is something I'll never be able to do. And it's not because I will never be able to make a living and pay for things. It's because it's like
It's not a price I'm willing to pay.
It's not
even
a
if I
price I'm
can
willing
pay
to
it.
pay. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's that is a huge barrier to entry for people. Now, obviously video games on the flip side are way cheaper for the amount of entertainment that you're going to get out of them. Like on per dollar per hour that I'm paying, on something like Space Marine is way higher dollar value, and that's an easier way to get people in, which is why they have always licensed the video games. They make a lot more money on them, I'm assuming. But the core hobby, if you're like, no, I want to get into the thing, it's like I'm gonna have to pay what to do that?
Yes.
Like it's a huge barrier to entry for
One thing
plastic. For plastic.
One thing I wanted to ask you guys, because I'm a huge role player, but like you guys are ingrained in the zeitgeist of it more than I am. I love that word. The company culture at Games Workshop was very cult-like. I want to have a better word for it, but I don't. It was very much, and I was told this phrase before, be very careful how you act. It's easy to get kicked out of heaven, right? Not that kind of a thing. Okay. Would you
Says
say...
the HR woman to the...
Yeah.
No, dude, this guy had a beard. He looked more man than I was. I was looking at him like, okay. So, is there a company?
Maybe one of the cringiest things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Is there a company? And I know probably WotC is probably on that mark, but is there a company with the market share that Games Workshop have that is a danger to everybody else in the role-playing space, or is the one you can see approaching that in the near future, approaching that kind
Do you
of
mean
a damaging
danger to them? As like a competitor to the main thing,
like the
or
D&D killer or a WotC killer thing.
Yeah. So like the elephant in the room. Like for instance, the other week I walked into the city just to pick up. I think I wanted to look around for. I can't remember what game it was. It was a role playing game, but I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, I'm walking through town. I go into Forbidden Planet, which is a big high street retailer, and it has everything. It's supposed to have everything. All I saw was D&D. I saw nothing else.
Yeah.
I saw Call of Cthulhu, one book of it, off in the corner.
Yeah.
And the hippie kids want to play that at Halloween. That's it, right? And the rest of it is all D&D. And I just thought to myself, I know we were talking at that stage about setting this up, and I was thinking, that's a good point. Like, this is Games Workshop. This is like them. Like, whenever I go to buy anything that's not Games Workshop affiliated in another store, you're just bombarded with Warhammer. You don't get to really see anything else. Do you think that's a huge problem in the RPG space? As game developers yourselves, are you ever looking to go into the book retail market and maybe compete with some of these guys? Is that down the road? And if so,
no.
what are the main pitfalls?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the D&D thing. It's not that that it's good or bad. It's just the nature of how the market works. There's going to be a market leader. That market leader came online and sort of utilized the sort of the logistics and the sales and all the structures of how things have been for in decades at this point. But that's not the way the world works. It's increasingly less how the world works now. Your local gaming store, even your Target, your Walmart, or what have you, is not how most people are getting role-playing game products.
Yeah.
Or even how people are getting most products.
Most things.
More broadly. I'm getting it from Amazon, I'm getting it from online. And if you are making a role-playing game or a tabletop game or whatever, there's no reason you're ensuring that you will not be successful if you're trying to source your products so that they can be on the shelves of a brick and mortar store.
Yeah.
That is 100% not the way to go. The only reason it makes sense for Wizards to do so is because they exist at the scale that they do. And you have to be at that scale for it to even be profitable
And
to do that.
The new edition is not selling well.
It's not selling well. And we saw there was this huge thing that happened a couple of weeks ago where there's a major distributor who Marvel uses and Paizo and Wizards of the Coast,
Image Comics,
Image Comics, a bunch of these people is going out of business, and
so
this
basically the way this works, because it's a fairly big story in the RPG space where you have this company called like Diamond Distributors, and they're a consignment company, and so basically they agree to take your books into their warehouse, and then they sell them to retail, or they put them in retailers. So this is a way to get your game into a big box store.
They're like a middleman between
and so when sales are made, the store gets a large cut, you get a large cut, and the consignment company gets a very small cut. But they're doing this at scale, so they're making up for it with volume of everything. Well, this company has entered bankruptcy as of the end of last year. They stopped paying people like a couple months before the end of the year. They've gone into bankruptcy, and the way that it's worked is that since they have all this shit in their warehouse, and this has happened many times before, so there's a lot of precedent on this, they went to the courts and said, we have all of this stock. We owe all this money to our creditors. We're just going to sell what's in our warehouse and give all the profit we make is going to our creditors, and we're not going to pay anyone else. And so all of these companies, and some of them are small, there's like this guy, his channel is Roll for Combat. He's got like $120,000 worth of product with Diamond, and Diamond gets to sell all of his shit and essentially keep all the money. They're not keeping it. It's going to their creditors, but he's not getting anything. There's a bunch of these companies that are like all of their stuff. Paizo, who makes Pathfinder, all of their new releases were going out. They're going to have some, through local game stores, but all of their shit that was going to be sold through Amazon, through all the big retailers, all of that belongs to Diamond now, and to Diamond's creditors.
All this is to show that this is. It makes sense at scale, but you're opening yourself up to many points of like risk, right?
It's not, and it's not worth it. Like I don't want to split that. I don't want to fucking split the money.
I don't want
anyone else anyway.
There's no reason to, because it's a misguided way, or it's an outdated way of viewing how like business is done. Because not only if we're going to publish a book, and we're going to do it through a publisher and also a distributor to put this out on retail shelves. Not only are there 3 people who are cutting into my profits, not only am I opening myself up to 3 points of failure, this is also actively operating against our strength and the strength of someone who is small, and against the strength of someone who wants to use the most like efficacious way of marketing your material, which is the internet. YouTube, Twitter, whatever. There's zero reason for anyone who isn't too bloated, too big to do so, to sell directly to your consumers.
Yeah. And this was like, there's if you look at like Monty Cook games, Monty Cook used to work at TSR. He's one of the famous D&D guys. But he has his own, and for many, many years has had his own company. He did a crowdfunding campaign for his game Numenera and made like mid 6 figures on it, like $500,000.
It was one of, if not the most successful Kickstarters at that time. For like a
role-playing game. And he was like, okay, well, I'm never selling in a store ever again. Why would I?
Yeah.
And he's continued to make, it's like multiple times a year they do crowdfunding campaigns. Sometimes I don't know if they've done more than $1 million, but they are making like high six figures over and over and over again. And you don't see his stuff in stores. And he's one of the biggest game designers, most successful game shops out there. And he's just selling online. And that's I think is the better way to do it. Like Nick said, you're opening yourself up to all this risk. And in the case of Diamond, in consignment houses, there is a way to ensure that your products aren't subject to this kind of a risk thing. But it takes you filling out all of this paperwork for every single one of your products. That basically, like, there's a form that you can fill out, or series of forms that I'm sure you have to have a lawyer do, to say, in the event that you go bust, I get my shit back. But that's an enormous amount of time and effort and money.
Fees.
Yeah, and lawyers and all of this stuff for something that probably isn't going to happen, but sometimes it does. It's
even that is not the only point of risk that you're opening yourself up to by using the system. You're just plugging yourself into this very bloated, ossified logistical system, which
and the thing
has worked in the past for big companies. This is how things had to be done.
Yeah.
Back in the day, if you were making a book, you had to use a publisher,
right?
Because there's no self-publishing.
Yeah.
You had to be on the shelves of a bookstore before Amazon. You were well past that point.
Yeah, you don't need to do that. And in my opinion, it's like I have not gone to a bookstore or a game shop and discovered a game I wanted to play on the shelves in a very, very long time. And the selection is so much more limited. Yeah. I don't know why they're in business for the most part.
Yeah.
That's what
most
struck me
aren't
about
in business.
Shelf, yeah. That's what struck me.
And there's
looking at that shelf
like,
and being like, there are no other games. There are tons of games.
Yeah, there are, but
it's
not worth it. And the other thing is, a lot of game stores they're doing things like serving food and alcohol, and that's how they're making a lot of their profit. And that's how they're basically. And I'm not against game stores. Like, I think it like we go to a game store and we play games there sometimes. But it's like I'm not buying anything from there. For the most part, and I know people do, but it's just it is less than it used to be because you can fucking buy it online. If I could
that's not
click
going
a button
to change.
and it's like and I get 2-day delivery on something, why am I going to go to the store and find out they don't have the specific thing that I want to buy in stock, or
we all know this.
The fucking
Amazon
moron at the counter? Like, it's just why would I deal with this?
Yeah, we've had Amazon for over 25 years.
20 years, yeah.
We all know this. I don't want to go somewhere to buy it.
And
I'll go somewhere to buy something because I have to.
Have to, yeah, exactly.
Or I need it literally right now. If there's some sort of, I need batteries, or I need something for my, whatever it is. I need a hammer.
Yeah.
Apart from that, any purchase that is not an emergency purchase, in a very isolated circumstance, it's cheaper, easier, better, whatever it is, to purchase it online and get it, and that's better from the business side too. Certainly, if you're small, if like us, why in the world would we dilute our distribution?
Yeah, add more people in.
Or just I want to get the game on shelves. It's like painting with a shotgun. Like, hopefully someone will see it. Like, that's not the way the world works.
It's the gamer's shelf at home. Like, you're just skipping the part in between. It's on the shelf.
Yeah.
Like, I think
it's the type of thing, like when we did the Shucked Oyster, we sold I think something between digital and physical. So this is not physical. I think we probably did like 600 copies, and then it was almost 1,000. This was with the initial Kickstarter with like PDF and everything like that. And since then, we've sold a bunch more as well. like well over 1,000. And had I tried to get that into a game shop, I never would have made that many sales.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
you would have lost money.
never.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have lost money on that. And so it's like, it's not only is it a better starting point for if you're doing your first product or whatever, you're going to do much better online and doing something like print on demand. So you don't have any financial risk there. You're not exposing yourself to anything than you ever could getting something on the shelf. And there's no reason not to do it. And it's not like, oh, this is just how, like, the entry point and the goal should be I'm getting into the game shop. Who cares about the game shop?
Yeah.
They have nothing to do with this. They're not going to help you make sales. You know, I'm not opposed
It's
to
only
someone,
an albatross around your neck.
Yeah, if a game shop owner was like, "Hey, I really want to put your product in my thing," like, sure, we'll sell you some wholesale copies or something. But it's like there's no benefit to you to doing that. It doesn't help you, you know. And building your brand and your audience online is what helps you, and that's what makes sales. So that's my feeling. I don't see any reason to try and be in a game shop.
I think ending that part of the discussion on you're basically cutting out the middleman and circumventing what is what Nick said is an ossified system that is unwieldy and doesn't serve its purpose is a good way to talk about it. One thing I wanted to touch upon, mainly from my own curiosity, so if you're here for the 40k part of the video, feel free to, like, you know, in the recording, feel free to go do something else for a bit, but don't, because this is going to be really cool. Americana. So, I had a feeling when I was watching that trailer, and I think I spoke to Matt about it when we were talking on Discord. I know the font doesn't come from Jurassic Park. Oh, that was used. But it did alight a feeling in me of, things were pretty cool, weren't they? Like that I just had that thing in the chest there, I think UK people have a very strange relationship with Americana. If people don't know what that means, it's basically the essence of what America is and who Americans are.
Classic American culture.
Yes. Yeah. The very famous quote by Vince McMahon, although we can't really talk about him anymore. Very famous quote that he said to Hulk Hogan in a contract meeting was, "I made you the fabric of Americana. How dare you treat me this way?" And that is basically, if we're looking at, if you're looking through, it's not just nostalgia goggles. It's not that. It's deeper than that. It's like an intrinsic cultural fingerprint on your pulse. That's something we don't really have in Britain. We don't really have. I think we're too cynical to have an English Arcana, or whatever you want to call it. We are very lucky to have our history. We're very lucky to have our castles, where their minds are blown when they realize how lucky we are to live around this stuff. Yeah. But as a race, as a people, we're not dreamers. We don't sit here and think, okay, well, what can we do? You know, let's put a rocket in space, shit like that. We don't do stuff like that. The Americana trailer really, it said very little, but I still came away from it thinking that. Now, is that what you were going for? And if not, I'm so sorry.
No, that's exactly what we were going for.
Okay.
And it was a teaser. We are going to be releasing videos, and we're going to be talking in depth about this throughout the year. So that ideally we will launch this on Kickstarter as a just and rightful celebration of the 250th birthday of the greatest country on earth.
But how does one pass that into a role-playing game, though? That's the one question I had coming away from it. I was like, how is this going to even fit together?
So you're right in that we've talked about how 40k gets watered down or misinterpreted, and people hear Americana and they think that it's nostalgia bait, and nostalgia is sort of everywhere. Nostalgia has been not weaponized, but it's been cynically used to get our dollars and our time out from us. but just like we started this conversation talking about Mythras and RuneQuest and these sort of mythic things, Americana it's a kind of mythic representation of the spirit of a people and a region. It's more than just a 1950s aesthetic. It's more than root beer floats or something. It's not a return to the past. It's what is the literal American dream, the soul of a people. Because even though there may not be an English arcana per se, you can imagine there is a mythical, hyper real representation of England, and England is you can maybe there's a couple. There's Merry England and there's Arthurian and all of the different things. Same Germany and France and what have you. But it's we've talked a lot about this and are going to continue talking about it.
Don't go any
what are
further
the core...
than you want to about for revealing stuff, by the way. I know I put you on the spot a little bit.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. But like, who are we? And Matt, you said it, and we have said it several times, talking with you and elsewhere. Sincerity. Yeah. Who are we? What is this thing? Because we want to paint a true and accurate picture of something that is unambiguously good. And if something is that true, it is also definitionally good.
Yeah. And I will say on the topic of sincerity, so it's like there's people basically look at like pessimism and optimism as being the opposites, and I don't think that's true. It's pessimism and sincerity, and for us, we want to make something that is sincere. There's a lot of people out there who like our content on the World of Darkness. World of Darkness is a game that we very much like, and they keep asking, when are you going to make your vampire? When are you going to make your World of Darkness? And the answer is we're never going to do that. First of all, because we're not going to do something better. We're not going to make a vampire game better than Vampire the Masquerade, in our opinion. But that is not the reason why we're not going to do it. A big part of that is that there's something... The World of Darkness is a cynical world. It is a world of cynicism, and it has soured on me a lot. There's a lot of things that I like about that, and so this is not our take on the World of Darkness, but people who like World of Darkness are going to love this game. There is going to be some elements of horror in this, but it is not a cynical game. It is not a cynical world, and there's
what you've mentioned is it sounds. I'm gonna use the word brave. It sounds like a very brave thing to do. I'm of the opinion that nihilism is another front for cowardice.
Mainly
100%. Because you have to believe in things and get behind things, and it's an incredibly brave thing to do. And I think in writing a game like this, I know we're not going to get into mechanics and things because you're still working it out. But in writing a game like this with a title like this, that is kind of laying down the flagging, saying, okay, everything laid bare. Here's what's important to me.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And this day and age is very brave. I would say that.
And without, again, like we've said, this is about like politics in game. There's no politics in this game, but this is a love letter to our homeland and the myths of America and the things that we love about our country and our people. And so in that sense, like it is an absolute love letter to all things America and Americana. But it's
but also in that sense, it's... Or sorry, finish your point.
No, go ahead.
if you're playing D&D, if you're playing 40K, there's every game has a setting, explicit or implied. And we really wanted to keep this at the forefront of our minds and express this to the people who are watching. Where we're coming from with Americana Dream is we're not giving you a fictional setting with lore per se. It's not really that. It's and this is like the point in the teaser. It's like, return to a place that's always been there, that you've always
You're already here.
It's real. You're already you are already here. This is something we all intuit, we all know is true. We're not giving you the fantasy version of Pecos Bill and Paul Bunyan or whatever. It's not cheap like that if we play our cards right. No, it's the closest example I can sort of give is not that I'm saying I'm better than him. Also, not saying I'm not better than him. Tolkien is he isn't making a fantasy setting. He's trying to give a revitalization and into myth, and America has the benefit of being a younger country, and a lot of this stuff is still closer to the surface. I guess, even though the enemy has done everything in their power to keep us from remembering this, but hopefully this sparks, a fire for people who, if you're English or you're French, you can still like this. We all understand in part what Americana is, and the soul of a people is a real thing. It is not just a figure of speech. It is a literally true thing. And there is a dream and a myth world of a people. And it's not just an allegory. It's not just imagination.
Yeah.
It's like Twin Peaks. I mean it like it is, like it sounds. That's
Mulholland Drive, but
I mean it like it is.
Mulholland Drive. Yeah. That's the cowboy.
Is it?
No. Isn't it?
Not. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Point is,
am I fucking up my lore? Okay. Doesn't matter. It was Lynch.
Wrong.
Yeah.
How embarrassing. It doesn't matter. But this is the vibe. This is the sort of point we're trying to put over. This shit is real. And we know it's real. And it's awesome. And it's good.
Yeah.
And that is something, despite for how real it is, it has been almost entirely forgotten.
Yeah. And
the misunderstandings as it pertains to like RPGs or fantasy or setting as such are almost infinite. We get distracted with lore facts or with materialist consistency or Byzantine motivations of lore characters or plot characters. All of these fucking things. And none of that matters. Or at best, all of that is sort of a secondary to what is really, really real, core. Really, really true, which we're hoping to remind people of, because the world is good and we are going to win.
So there's two things. Firstly, sorry for nearly cutting you off in your prime there. You cut out for like 3 seconds, which is I thought you were finished speaking. On the flip side of that, Tolkien, I don't know if you've ever read any of his essays. He spoke about his motivations for actually making The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. And the one thing he said was that he thought the English had lost their mythology. That since the Battle of Hastings, it had become more like King Arthur was a French, a Breton a hero. He was, and he wanted to actually inject some Englishness in there, which is why Rohan even existed. Literally Vikings on horseback. If we had that, we wouldn't have lost the Battle of Hastings. So what you were saying there, Nick, sort of reminds me of that motivation, of that where is our, like I'm not American, but like it would be, where is our touchstone? Like where is it? Like, where is our soul here? Because America is a land of so many different myriad peoples and cultures that have all come to the same place for the same thing, and that's to just live happily and to be okay and to be entitled to the sweat of their brow, sort of a thing. But with so many myriad voices, you will lose that central through line of what it is to be American. Eventually, it will start to thread and go away. We're seeing that in Britain right now. We're going to get into some controversial topics if I go any further, of course. But we are getting to that stage in Britain now where people are starting to feel that they've lost their country, that we've lost who we are. That's what I meant by brave. When I said writing something like Americana Dream does seem extremely brave to say, look, I'm going to nail my flag to the mast here and say my colours here and say, look, this is what I think we are. Because any definitive statement these days, people will try and attack because they're cowardly and they don't like anything that maybe is saying something. That even if they might like what's being said. So the reason why I wanted to bring up Americana, even if we can't talk too much about it right now, because I just want to get that message across. It is a very brave thing to do, and I'm very excited for where it's going to go. I think a lot of people, when it does come out, might revisit this video and go, that's what he meant. A lot more was revealed here than perhaps it seemed at the start. I'm reticent to take up any more of your valuable time, so I guess we can call it there. But thanks for coming on, guys. That was awesome.
Yeah,
and, thanks for having us.
Thank you for
Black
having
Lodge
us,
Games,
this
guys.
is awesome.
Yeah, go and support them, Black Lodge Games. They normally stream when I'm getting up or when I'm in bed, which is why I hardly ever make a stream. But when I do, I always say hello.
Very late or early for the Europeans.
Thursday nights, 8:30 p.m. Central Time is when we stream. So yeah.
However, we are going to start. We do have a locals.
Yeah.
And if you use promo code FREN,
FREN,
you can get a FREN, the correct
spelling. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can get a month free at our locals. Yeah.
But we are going to start doing bi-monthly live streams. We don't know what time those will be yet, but perhaps those will be more advantageously timed. I think they probably will be, because they're not going to be later than the Thursday live stream. So, and we're going to talk about broader, deeper, other stuff as well, and we can veer in, like we have with this conversation, to politics if that comes up, or the culture more broadly, because we'll be on locals.
Yeah.
So excellent. And guys, if you're in the US, you don't have an excuse. I can't even remember when I think it was one of young Steve's Nick's videos on Vampire back in the day, where he's literally just talking into the camera, into my soul, and that's when I sort of got involved with the Black Lodge Games. I'm happy to be on here before you guys blow up, so when you do, don't forget like who was here.
Of course, man.
Yeah. At the start. As you blow us all by. But no, if you guys like RPGs, if you like any sort of the meta around RPGs too, the process of writing them, gaming systems galore, make sure you go check out Black Lodge Games, and also Shucked Oyster and sorry, my voice. Shucked Oyster is been available for quite a while now, hasn't it? It's been
It's on drive-through. We just we also put up Cults of Zahak, our D100 Mythras book is on drive-through now in PDF. We're still about half of the people who backed that on Kickstarter, who got the hardcover, have ordered their books. We're waiting until more people have ordered their books, and, so they have a little period of exclusivity, and then we'll put the hardcover up available as well. But that's on Drive-Thru RPG, both of those.
Beautiful.
Indeed.
Of course, you have Bloodmore on the way as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
A pair of busy bees over here, is
Yeah.
all I can say. But thank you for coming on, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thanks
much
for having
having
us,
us, man.
man.
We'll see you later. I'll stay on the call for a sec, say goodbye, but we'll see you guys later.